Alright guys, today we're taking a look at AC Shadow in Ultra Wide. Now I am approaching the 20-hour mark of the game and my first impression is pretty good. It is a lot of fun and enjoyable. It's pretty much what you played before in the past with all the AC modern ones like Origin, Odyssey, and Valhalla. It is more of the same, but minus all the bloated stuff that you find in those games. It is really streamlined a lot better. Starting with the ultra wide support, it is definitely a lot better than the previous one. Right out the box, you really don't have to do anything, not even hex editing or anything like that, to get ultra wide working in cutscenes or gameplay. If you're playing in 21 by 9, everything works out the box. No fixes are needed. However, if you're playing anything bigger than 21 by 9, 32 by 9, for example, during cutscene, you will get pillar box, but gameplay does support 32 by 9. Cutscenes are, however, capped at 30 frames by default. Now, there's no settings to change that to anything higher in the game. I have been using lossless scaling to not only get frame generation, but to get the cutscene working in 60 frames. Since I'm getting a bug right now that does not allow me to get FG, DLSS, FG working in game. So I've just been using lossless scaling, which I don't mind at the moment since it gives me a 60 frame cutscene, which is great because switching from 30 frames back to like 100 plus frame during gameplay is pretty jarring. It's kind of a distraction. You can also use Special K. They released the latest one with support for AC Shadow. That should get 60 frames cutscene, but there is some known issues right now, like bugs and stuff like that. So keep an eye on that. So you do have two options right now at the moment. If there's anything else, I would definitely leave it in the description as the game gets updated with mods. Now moving on to performance-wise, the game runs well, but it is a very demanding game. It has been running pretty stable. I would say upscaling and FG, frame generation, is pretty much required if you want to have a good time in the game. As like I mentioned, it is a very demanding game, but it runs stable. I have not encountered any crashes during the almost 20 hours of gameplay now. That's using lossless scaling in the background and some other third-party program as well. So the game has been running pretty stable. All the gameplay you're watching, the game is running at 5120 by 2160 on Ultra preset graphics with DLSS performance and frame generation, of course. And I'm getting anywhere between like 90 to 120, sometime more in certain less dense area. Now the graphics in this game is absolutely gorgeous. It's probably one of the best looking modern AC game right now. The vista, everything is just drop dead gorgeous, and it is one of the strongest suit with this game. Just a sense of exploration makes you want to explore because everything is just drop dead gorgeous. I think I've only fast traveled once or so in the first 20 hours of game back to home base. Not because I had to, it's just because I wanted to upgrade some things at the home base. Other than that, I don't believe I would have fast traveled at all. Also, I found myself not opening up the map very often, as you really don't need to, because the game does a good job of not kind of filling everything with markers now. You're gonna have to do a little bit exploring, and things will open up as you're exploring the map, as opposed to just opening the map and seeing everything there, and just clicking on it and then auto run there of some sort. But yeah, it does a good job of making you explore a little bit better in this game, and it's a lot of fun. And I am one of those that super glad I got rid of the eagle, because I just found that to be super boring, being able to just mark everything as opposed to seeing it and then marking it yourself. Alright, so moving on to control wise. Now you can play the game just like previous AC with the mouse and keyboard, but however this time I kind of recommend using a controller instead, as even though the combat is slightly tighter than Valhalla and Odyssey and Origin, there's still, it feels a little bit floaty still, but however using a controller, it helps mitigate a lot of that floaty feeling due to the rumble of the controller. Whereas if you're just using a mouse controller, you're not going to feel the impact when you're slicing through an enemy, and it's going to feel a bit more floaty. And that's one of the things I hate about Valhalla, is it just doesn't feel impactful, especially having just come off of playing a little bit of Rise of the Ronin on PC. All of the parries and slicing feels very impactful, and just switching now to AC Shadows, it just feels very floaty, and using a controller actually feels helps feel that impact a little bit more with the rumble. Okay, so just a quick mention of HDR. Kind of goes back to the graphic settings. It does support HDR, and it looks really good, just like any previous modern AC games. This time the setting is pretty simple. You just set your maximum brightness for your monitor, whatever that is. So if it's 400, set it to 400, and the exposure, I recommend using negative 0.3 as your exposure. That will help the HDR black level a lot more. So, and it makes the game looks so much better. And that's the setting I recommend you use if you're playing the game in HDR. Alright, and lastly, just a quick touch on the audio. I would say the soundtrack, this is probably the weakest of all the modern ones. There are some areas the soundtrack is very questionable. On the other areas, it's fine, but it's not great. It's kind of disappointing, as this is Japan after all, and some of the a lot of time the soundtrack is very questionable, especially during cutscenes. And as for the voice acting, I would say Yusuke is fine. However, Naoe, she is kind of a hit or miss. There is some scenes she does an amazing job in, but for some reason she's not very consistent as Yasuke. There's some that's just completely flat and feels out of place, and then some cutscenes she's great again, and some random cutscenes where it's not important, she just sounds really, really off. I do recommend using the Japanese voice acting, as it's a lot more consistent. It's not super great, but it's consistent. However, I just found myself going back to the English voice acting, because there's going to be a lot of cutscene and a lot of reading. You get tired of looking down at subtitles after a while, so I just kind of learned to put up with her voice acting a little bit. She's not great. I don't think there's going to be anyone that's going to be able to beat Cassandra, voice actress, as she pretty much set the new standard for AC games. So yep, that is my impression on the audio so far. Alright guys, so that about does it for my impression of AC Shadows. Overall, it is a lot better than I expected, as I am not burnt out on open world games yet, as I took a break for a few years from open world game. I think the last one I played was AC Valhalla, and that was a few years ago when I was really burnt out on open games, and that game was kind of like the nail in the coffin. So yeah, it's been a few years since I played an open world game again, and just getting back into it. So I have a new appreciation for open world game, and I think that helps a lot with not being burnt out and appreciating this game a lot more. So I think if you're on the same boat and you're not burnt out on open world game, then this game will probably catch your attention. But if you've been playing a lot of open world games, and you're completely burnt out, this will definitely not help giving off that good impression, as I think you need a lot of patience and motivation to kind of play an open world game and be absorbed in the universe. So that is about it, guys. Thanks for watching. I will wrap it up here until the next video. See you later.